Stellt euch folgende Situation vor.
So imagine there is a person sliding into your direct messages, and he's writing to you, "Oh, I think your profile is quite cute," and you also think, "Oh, that's a cute person," and then over the next weeks you start chatting, and then the person says, "Hey, let's meet up. Want to see you?" And then you have a video call, and that's like really, really hot. And the next day you wake up, and then you get a message from an unknown account who's telling you, "Please send me $2,000. Otherwise, the video footage from yesterday will go online." Sounds like Black Mirror, doesn't it? But that's the story of a real investigation we'll get to know in the next talk. The title is Blackmailing from the Internet on the Traces of the Cybermafia, and it's presented by Svea Eckert, and who's already an investigative journalist for over 10 years. And a lot of people will know her from a lot of net politics podcasts, and she is supported by Shiljeta Bayami, who is studying in Hamburg, also journalism. Big round of applause, please.
Thank you, Katasha. Thank you for being here, that you've invited us here to this Congress, and that we can tell you our story, which we researched together. We've been introduced. I'm Svea Eckert. I've got a small women in tech podcast, and Chili is standing next to me. I'm Tiljeta Berami. I study Iranian studies at the Hamburg University, and I'm starting to work as a journalist. And this research brought us closer together. Chili is going to tell us about it, about how it began for us both, and how we traced the scammers on the internet together. And we wound up in Southeast Asia, and we've encountered people who don't fit into our picture of the bad, evil scammer and cybercriminal. We are going to talk about the perpetrators and about the mafia structures behind this crime. We're going to look forward to what needs to be done, what can be done. So this sounds like a fascinating true crime episode, but it's a serious matter. So there's going to be this content warning. In this talk, we're going to talk about human trafficking, violence, and there's going to be explicit content. And now, over to you, Tilly.
Speaking of
explicit content, this is how our story begins. About 2 years ago, in June, a friend of mine, let's call him Sebastian, called me in a panic, and he told me, "Chili, something bad happened to me, and I don't know who I can talk to about it." And what he told me was quite a shock. He's from Rostock, he's in his mid-20s, and in the morning he has a match on the dating site Bumble with a young woman called Hannah. She's cute, she's new in town, and she's looking for connections. Sebastian and Hannah started chatting, and after hours, it's got a bit steamy, well, a lot, and there was cyber sex on a video call. In the video call, he sees a woman moving, but he can't hear what she's saying because the microphone is broken. Sebastian shows himself naked, and suddenly the video call cuts out. What happens after really shocked him. You can see, well, not a lot in the screenshot. We got this from Sebastian and we blurred them for this talk, but he gets screenshots from himself where he's naked. He's being threatened, he's being told to pay $2,000, and he's incredibly embarrassed. He followed my advice, took screenshots, of these chat messages in case he wants to bring this to the police at a later point. The news did not stop at that. They got more intense and more threatening. There was pressure built on him, as you can see on the screenshots. If you don't pay me, all of your tagged friends will see this. It means they looked at his social media accounts, at his friends and from his followers, and they had sent about 4-person screenshot at this point already to increase the pressure on him to pay. Finally, he gets a voice message. Won't play it, but yeah, it's about. They say, "Do you like it, man?" And it's finally clear. It's not a woman he was talking to, but it was a man, because it was a male voice. But still, we were wondering, who is this woman?
So we followed the data that we had at the beginning. We got a bunch of phone numbers from Sebastian and looked at them, and we figured out that the location code was pointing to the Philippines. So we just called the phone numbers, and either nobody answered or it was the line was not taken. So the phone numbers were dead end. Afterwards, we did something that people know from MTV Catfish, and we did backwards image search, and we found that the woman in the picture is actually real, but it's not Hannah, it's a Korean influencer. At the profile that Sebastian found, it's a classic profile building. The profile is built up regularly, and there are pictures are stolen from a normal person, and they fake authenticity. They fake authenticity of this profile by building it up. The images are stolen, and so the people think that it's actually a real person. It doesn't look like a AI photo, but they think it's an actual person. So we realized that the first traces went to Southeast Asia, but we didn't know more than we could find about the profile. So what Sebastian had to go through is not a single case. It's called sextortion, and there is several support groups into which we looked into. It's mainly men of all ages and social circles in first world countries. We talked to a lot of survivors, but out of shame, nobody wanted in front of the camera. Different people had different intentions. Somebody wanted, some people were looking for the big love. Some people were just looking for a one-time thing. Sometimes the chats went on for months, so that an actual relationship did develop. So they actually, through this contact, they actually found the contact of the people. So this is a video that was in this support group. We found this very good because you can see how one of these calls works. One of the victims actually filmed, and you can see the scammer, and she's waiting for somebody to actually show in the camera. So she's actually applying pressure to him that he should turn on his camera.
Okay, we're going to show you some small passages from people in these self-help groups. Some of them were to pay $15,000, others $75,000. But what they all shared in common, that after this blackmail, they had anxiety and sleep disorders. still weeks after this incident, so the psychological damage is really high. And affected people told us this. Couldn't sleep for days. It's unfortunately a common thing. And in April of 24, about a year after this happened to Sebastian, the British police warned about extortion. There were suicide among students who had their nude pictures distributed by scammers. So these are really bad consequences for the victims, not just financially, but also psychological. But the interesting thing is that the National Crime Agency, international authorities, said about the perpetrators. The hints pointed to Southeast Asia. And West Africa is talked about, and Southeast Asia. And this was very interesting to us, and we said, okay, we want to follow up on this. So you'd think, all right, this is what a criminal looks like. He's sitting in a hoodie in front of monitors and does his evil business, plies his evil trade, the stereotypical cybercriminal. But this is not what cybercrime looks like anymore. A lot of you know this. And we're going to do a deep dive into the world of cybercrime. These are people who don't do this voluntarily or because they stand to gain something, or because they're evil. No, it's people who are being exploited. And an article in the New York Times pointed us in this direction, actually. 7 months inside an online scam labor camp. And a young Chinese man reports how he was locked in for 7 months. He finally managed to flee, how he was exploited and how he had to scam and defraud people and how he was forced to work with a cartel and managed to work his way up the ladder. We're going to talk about this later. He manages to act as a whistleblower, and he manages to take documents, pictures, and accounting materials with him. It's quite the folder. He managed to get it out and to make it public. And so far, he's only talked anonymously, also in the interview with the New York Times and later interviews. But now he has decided to show his face and to have his name be published. And he asked if he could give me an interview for this Congress. And
is in prior reporting, and now I decided to disclose my identity as Yi Hao Lu. So I was in.
Ich trete hier unter meinem eigenen Namen auf. Und ich werde auch hier als man hat mir einen Job als Übersetzer angeboten in Thailand, aber das war kein echter Job. Es war ein Scam. And so you know the location a little bit better, so you know where it is. I've brought this map. You see Myanmar, and you see this border region between China, Laos, and Thailand. And at this border between Thailand and Myanmar, at the Moe River, this is a border river between the countries. That's where this story happened.
So we zoom in, and Neo is believing that there is an English translation job he's applying for in Bangkok, and then he is caught at the airport, and and then he thinks the work location might be just a little bit outside, but the voyage there takes 2 days, and there's an illegal transition of borders, and the people don't get. They're not friendly anymore, so he starts to realize that he's fallen into a job scam. So he ends up in the Dongmei zone, where the Doi River is, which is the border river, and it's clear that if you don't want to swim through the river, that's hard to escape. This just happens before Corona. There should start to be building casinos, but then due to Corona, it didn't happen. And due to Corona, they exchanged the purpose of the buildings, and there's a lot of corruption in this region. So it starts that this is a nice setting for online scams, and Neo was able to make photos and also to flee with them from the camp. It's looked like caverns, and he finds himself surrounded by walls, and yeah, and I'm not a hero, he says, but I'm rather an accountant, and I thought about escape in the beginning, but then I was just too scared and stopped thinking about fleeing. He needed to live and sleep in these rooms with other people, where also caught.
They were literally including some sort of some successful cases, successful achievement they had done, in which a female doctor in China was scammed out of 2 million Chinese yuan, which is a huge sum of money. I think that's around 250 euros worth of money, and they use that chat history as successful cases for the newcomer to study. I was like, this is fucking diabolical.
So he couldn't trust his own eyes. He was supposed to scam people. So what happens is he has a small video that he took later, where all of these accounts, they're prepared in beforehand, and there's a different team that maintains these accounts and like creates these accounts. What he told me to this picture is this is Chinese people being ripped off. It's with WeChat accounts. So WeChat has higher security standards than WhatsApp and stuff. So you need a SIM card, a phone for one account. So you can't have multiple accounts on one phone.
Genau, zeigt das nochmal. Genau, hier ist die.
This is the scamming area. It looks like a large office, but the people are there voluntarily, and the time was switched to the time of the victim that was scammed. So this cartel was scamming Chinese people, and so for like 10:30 we started time of work, and then the end time was also shifted, and different types of people were working here from different nationalities. There's also a manual. In this case, it's not sextortion, but it's pig butchering scam, which is some kind of trick. So it's also from a Chinese figure of speech, and so the pigs are being fed so you can make a profit, and the tricksters are going into long-term relationships to actually get this pig big and then get profit out of it. So step 1, you collect data. So we talked about that. So step 2 is like asking for a friendship request. This happens over dating profiles, but also over Instagram. So you recruit people. And step 3 is the instructions to the first instruction to sending money. So this typically works through telling them, oh, I'm so fine with like crypto. So these people are then supposed to invest in some crypto scam. And phase 2 is the harvest, where you first enter a small amount of money and you actually get some money back, so you get some trust, and then it's the victim goes further to a senior scammer, and then the senior scammer maintains this relationship, and in the end there's a crash where the website crashes and there's a mistake in the web code, and then all of the money is gone. So we talked to investigators, and in Germany there's one large case in Bavaria where 1.5 million euros were sent to a scammer. And then I was like, what, who has this much money? But somebody said to me, like, you don't have any idea. That on average it's like 80,000 euro, which I already find very high. He also has something to say about this.
Decided to inform.
Das muss ich kurz anmoderieren.
Sorry, I need to moderate that first, otherwise you cannot understand it. That's not happening freely, but there's a lot of pressure on the people and physical violence, and he's also got beaten and got electroshocks.
Decided to enforce it with physical punishment, torture me. So the standard routine of every torture starts with the electric baton. So they use the electric baton to electroshock me for, I don't know, two minutes, things like that. And after that, they would usually bare hand or use some sort of PVC tube to beat me up.
Genau,
So those reports don't we only know from him, but there are a lot of people who escaped and who also tell similar stories. Actually, it's not only a photo, but there's a video of that torture. Why is there a video that he can get out because his parents paid 30,000 euros to the cartel, and this video was sent to his parents to get their money. So we now want to talk about the offenders and the mafia structures. So I want to explain that from the Chicho cartel, which is a cartel Neo was working for, because they're actually quite detailed reports. So on the bottom there are the workers. They're in groups. They're called cyber slaves, groups from 4 to 20 people, and each of them is getting a small amount of money, which they can use for food and drugs in the camp, also prostitutes. And the money which is they get from the victim goes to the team leaders. Over there is the partners who supervise the teams. And we're talking about big criminal structures, money laundering, and on top is the founder of the cartel. And Neo was an accountant, where he didn't want to scam people, so this was a way to get out of scamming people and also gain knowledge. So he got the whole accountant documents, which he could upload into a cloud. That was his idea of revenge when he was captured, and he wanted to upload all the information, and he sent them to the New York Times because he was very afraid of his life. So he thought, well,
and even if it happens to me, the information is out there. And so if you wonder why he didn't have a camera, why did he have a telephone, he needed to follow the electricity meter to make up the final bill. So that's how he got access to a phone. He's going to talk a bit about the revenue.
Of 60 to 70 personnel unmasked or scammed, and 9 to 10 million RMB from the Chinese victim, which is around 1.1 to 1.2 million euros in general in 6 months. And I could tell you, the thing is, this cartel should be deemed as a small timer in that region.
So, yeah, it's a small cartel that he worked in. And here you see a map with a couple more cartels. There's, along this border river, there's hundreds of them. In Myanmar, but also in Cambodia and in Laos. And on the Philippines, the number of slaves is estimated to be 80 to 100,000. We dropped a zero. That's the estimate from a UN report. The estimated revenue, according to this revenue, is about $7.5 to $12 billion only in Cambodia, but they couldn't find any substantial numbers in other countries. That's half the GDP of that country. And by now, it exceeds the revenue of drug trade in the region. So if you talk to investigators, to Interpol, who investigate there, they say it's taking over drug trafficking. It's spreading like a virus in this region. And the perpetrators are usually the Chinese mafia and cartels. That's also true for the others. What do we do about this now? It's definitely difficult. There are rescue missions and there's advice from NGOs. There's police and military actions by the authorities. The heads are wanted and there's sanctions from the US. In the end, it only helps to stabilize the affected countries and to intervene at a government level because these mafia structures have reached up to the government level. Let's get back to what we can do here locally. And what about Sebastian? He's hopefully doing well. Back to Sebastian's story. You remember, he was scammed. He did not pay, thank God. Sorry.
Von dem Cybersklaven Neo, den wir gerade eben
he was scammed by cyberslave Neo? No. The cartel only scammed Chinese-speaking people. But the blackmail that happened to Sebastian came from a comparable scam factory, we think. But what can we do here in Germany against this? We need trained teams of investigators and prosecutors because it is obvious that the problem is only going to get worse and affect more and more people in the future. The big platforms need to ensure that they take responsibility and protect their users, that these scams cannot happen on their platforms, like Facebook, Instagram, and whatever they may be called. And potential victims need to be made aware that they have possibilities, that they can go to the police, that they should not pay, that they are not alone in this, and that they need not be ashamed that this happened to him, because it can happen to anyone. Yeah, so that's the most important thing to take away here, the last point. It was lucky that Sebastian could call you, that he had somebody he could turn to, and who stayed calm and said, all right, what can happen? Nothing can happen. Don't do anything. Don't pay. Document it in case you want to report this to the police, if you find the strength. It takes a lot of strength, definitely. And his friend circle reacted really well, actually. These pictures went to some close friends of his. And he sent a message to them right after that, please don't open. And it wasn't opened, thank goodness, probably. But in any case, nobody talked to him about it. Everybody said, yeah, it's funny or sorry that this happened to you. But talking about it helps. If you don't have the possibility to talk to family and friends about it, I don't know, write a diary, go to church, go to therapy, or look for a self-help group online. The important thing is that there is an awareness for the topic and then people are not ashamed. Sebastian didn't go to the police. Other victims also didn't go to the police. I understand this. from a victim perspective. But on the other hand, if people don't go to the police, these cases don't go on the record, they don't show up in statistics, and there's a large number of unreported cases. This is why the numbers in Germany are very, very, very vague. All right, that's it. So remains for us is to say thank you. Thank you for coming to our talk. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our protagonists and to the broadcast stations who made this research possible. And it's very important that we're going to stick on the topic. And this is going to be a call to you. So report it, or come to us, come forward and spread the word that we are researching through this. We're going to publish further on this. We are going to follow up further trails, and we are happy for any hint. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the English translation of Blackmail from the Internet and the 38th C3. Your translators were Sneaky, Kuthra and Gina. We appreciate your feedback. Please email us at hello@c3lingo.org or use hashtag C3lingo on Mastodon. We will now continue with the questions. There is a question from the internet. Were the sextortions always about money, or was there, or did they also want something else, like influence in companies? I haven't heard of that, but I think it's a possibility. But the cases we know about, it's always about money. Thanks for the question. Microphone number 4. You told us that half of the GDP is in revenue. How large is the chance that the country wants to do something about it? That's exactly the problem, that it runs into the government circles, so that part of the cartel are part of the government, and that makes it very difficult. Cambodia is the most open country in the region. If you want to talk about a relationship, but there is some relationship with Myanmar and the international community there. But government from Germany can't really get a relationship with there. Thanks for the question. So I'm going to look at the Signal Angel.
Wurden die Drohungen, die Bilder zu veröffentlichen,
were the threats that the pictures will be published, were those actually done? Well, that happens sometimes. Sometimes the pictures were published, but sometimes the contact details were missing for the scammers. There was one case where the mother of a victim got the images, so they actually do that. So they don't have anything to lose. They didn't send it to all of the contacts directly, but just some of them as like a threat, and then again to some more. But if then there was no payment, then there was like an end to this. Microphone 1.
Ja, auch von mir vielen Dank für den
So from me there's
mich würde interessieren, warum genau haben sich
why did the cartels get their regions there? Why did they get foot in Myanmar? Was it easy to go into government circles there or what? So as far as I have researched this, and you can read in the UN report, the history is as follows. From this region, there's gambling. This is the Golden Triangle, and it was convenient for them. The buildings were there, and there were investors that had these buildings, and they already had connections to the cartels. There was like a mixture of it was easy. The region is right. It's easy to give people money for services, and so corruption It's a mixture from different factors.
Vielen Dank für diese Frage. Und damit gehen wir nach oben auf die Empore zur nächsten.
Ja, vielen Dank.
Thank you.
Meine Frage wäre, habt ihr
My
Infos
question is, do
darüber,
you have
was die Nationalitäten
information
sind, von
about
denen
the
dort verschleppt werden? Also
nationalities of the people that are enslaved?
zum Beispiel auch mit thailändischen Staaten.
Is that also people from Thailand?
Alle an der Grenze
And are all of the camps on the border to Thailand?
zum Staat dazu.
What does Thailand do about it? Very interesting question. It's a lot of people from Thailand. It's a lot of Asian people. But there's also, I've read cases from people from Nepal. There's also cases from European people that were backpackers, and they were lured by having opportunity to make money there. There's often military action that also are in the Chinese or Thai media. So they tell, oh, we've rescued 50 people. I think that's more for propaganda. What we don't know, what we don't see is what pressure there is in the background. From Thailand to Myanmar, in the end, only the country itself can massively do military action against us. But we don't really know anything about that. What we want is like large prisoner exchanges. But the Thai people really don't like this, or the Thai government really doesn't like this. Some people are losing their insurance for old age in these scams to these cyber criminals. So the problem is getting bigger and bigger, so the pressure to move is on.
Sind wir leider am Ende der Zeit angekommen.
So we're at the end of time. Thank you for this very interesting research.